Mario has entertained generations of gamers with some of the best platforming ever made. With each new Nintendo console, the 3D Mario games have only gotten better in my opinion. From Super Mario Sunshine to the Mario Galaxy series, I've seen Princess Peach get kidnapped more times than I can count. And I've had a blast saving her every step of the way. So of course, when Super Mario Odyssey was released, you already know I had to play it. And now, revisiting it in 2025, it's time to see if the magic is still there. And after saving the princess for what seems like the 700th time, it's time to answer the big question. Does Super Mario Odyssey still hold up, or was it overrated all along? Let's find out together. Super Mario Odyssey kicks off with Bowser once again kidnapping Princess Peach. You know what, at this point, I honestly don't know why Peach just doesn't keep an AK-47 in her purse at all times. You'd think she would have learned by now. For this specific kidnapping, Bowser is planning a forced wedding with Peach, with the help of his bunny friends, the Broodals. And I'm not so sure why he's dead set on this interspecies marriage. When I was a kid, I thought Bowser was kidnapping Peach for, political reasons, kingdoms at war, power struggles, and all that. But as an adult, yeah, I'm pretty sure Bowser's just a gooner. Anyway, Mario tries to stop this latest kidnapping, but Bowser smacks him off his airship and destroys his hat in the process. That's when Mario meets Cappy, a spirit hat from the Cap Kingdom whose sister, Tiara, was also kidnapped. The two team up and set off on a globe-trotting adventure to chase Bowser through deserts, forests, cities, and even the moon itself. And along the way, Mario uses Cappy's powers to capture enemies and objects, solve puzzles, and collect power moons to fuel his ship, the Odyssey. Eventually, the chase leads to Bowser's wedding on the moon, where Mario crashes the ceremony, saves Peach and Tiara, and puts an explosive end to Bowser's creepy plan. The story in Mario Odyssey, like other Mario games, obviously isn't packed with crazy plot twists or deep character development, and you know what, I think that's perfectly fine. Mario really hasn't ever been, in my opinion, about complex storytelling. It's just, the princess gets kidnapped, you gotta go save her. And I think this approach works pretty well for Mario, but it probably wouldn't fly for, a game like Red Dead Redemption, where the plot is a huge part of the experience. In Mario games, the plots are usually pretty simple. Bowser kidnaps Peach, Mario goes and saves her. The real magic, though, is in the gameplay. Odyssey continues this tradition. Light on the story, heavy on the platforming. And those of you who know me know platformers are like crack to me. So let's talk about the platforming. Unlike OG linear Mario games, Odyssey gives you a massive sandbox style and the kingdoms to explore, each with its own world design, hazards, and challenges. For the most part, the kingdoms all look and feel different from each other. For example, Metro Kingdom has a bustling urban vibe, while the Luncheon Kingdom is very bright and colorful and has that food theme going for it. And the Sand Kingdom has a vast desert atmosphere. All of these diverse environments and enemy types encourage players to adopt different platforming strategies throughout the game. The platforming isn't just about jumping from point A to B, it's about exploring every nook and cranny and finding hidden power moons. There are so many power moons scattered throughout the countless locations, it's insane. You only need 124 moons to complete the story, and Google tells me the game actually has 880 moons to collect. That's insane. I'll admit I stumbled across most of my 124 moons without much effort, really. I'm pretty sure a lot of them will be cleverly hidden given how many of them are, and the sheer amount of just the ones that I just found by casually exploring, and I feel like it made the game a little bit easier than I would have liked. Personally, I'm not a completionist in any way, but I can imagine it would be incredibly satisfying to track down as many moons as possible, scouring every corner of each kingdom and covering the tougher, more elusive ones along the way. Of course, to do this effectively, you'll need to experiment with Mario's movement and fully utilize the Cappy mechanic to uncover as many moons as possible. Mario's moveset in Odyssey does a great job of being smooth, entertaining, and overall feeling like Mario. You've got the classic jump, the double jump, the wall jump, the ground pound, but the possibility is expanding here with the use of Cappy. Throwing Cappy lets Mario take control of enemies and objects, which kind of sounds disturbing in theory, but in practice it's actually a brilliant mechanic that unlocks tons of creative platforming solutions. The roster of capturable creatures I felt like was pretty large and diverse. Frogs, for example, will give Mario huge leaps. Goombas can stack themselves on top of each other. There's a rampaging T-Rex. My personal favorite, the Jaxie, which lets you walk on top of the acid. And not to mention Bowser himself, and so many more. Each one adds its own twist to exploration and movement, keeping the gameplay fresh and exciting. My one real critique of the capture mechanic is that while it's incredibly fun and creative, most of the creatures you take over have pretty simple movesets. It works well enough for the puzzles and the platforming challenges in the game, but I couldn't help but wish that there was more depth to each capture. Maybe a few extra abilities or combo-style moves to keep things fresh. That extra layer of complexity, I feel like could have pushed the mechanic from great to truly groundbreaking. Cappy can also be used to extend jump distance by bouncing off of captured creatures. This makes it possible to reach otherwise inaccessible areas, turning traditional platforming into a puzzle of movement and timing. The boss fights in Super Mario Odyssey are a fun mix of classic and modern design. Some stick to the traditional Mario formula, jump on the enemy's head 3 times until they go down, like most of the Brutals. Others lean into Odyssey's unique mechanics, which require you to capture a creature with Cappy and use its abilities to defeat the boss. Fights like a Mecha Wiggler or the Giant Dragon really stand out in my opinion because they force you to think outside the usual Mario platforming style. I had fun with pretty much all of the boss fights, and I really appreciate the mix of the two styles, but I definitely felt like it could have been a little bit more challenging. I know this game is aimed at kids, but so was Super Mario Sunshine, and I felt like that game wasn't really afraid to push players a little bit with some of the difficulty in the levels without FLUDD. And I've looked this up enough. I understand that some people may not like that aspect to it, but I'm just talking about me personally, and I enjoyed that. Odyssey's platforming is actually fun and inventive and endlessly rewarding. It balances classic Mario precision with open-ending exploring and a ton of creative movement options thanks to Cappy. Personally, I never felt myself getting bored at all, but I can understand the criticism that the game is too easy. Despite that, at the end of the day, Super Mario Odyssey is exactly what a Mario game should be. Pure, joyful platforming wrapped in creativity. Even if the story is simple and the difficulty is a little bit on the lighter side, I think the variety of the kingdoms, Cappy's mechanics, and the freedom to explore at your own pace make this one of my favorite 3D platformers ever made. Coming back to it in 2025, it hasn't really lost an ounce of its charm. Whether you're a longtime Mario fan or someone jumping in for the first time, Odyssey still proves why Nintendo sits on top of the platforming throne. So, now we've arrived at the part where I rate the game. And honestly, this was probably the toughest one I've had to score so far. For the plot score, I'd give Super Mario Odyssey a 9 out of 10. It's an incredibly fun game, and I think that almost any type of player could enjoy this, whether you're a casual Mario fan or a longtime platforming veteran. That being said, there's a few small things here that I'd love to see improved in a potential Mario Odyssey 2, and hopefully we don't have to wait too long for that. So, if you enjoyed this trip to Mario Odyssey, make sure you smash that like button, drop a comment with your favorite kingdom or boss fight, or your critique of the game, and of course, subscribe so you don't miss my next adventure. We've got plenty more reviews, playthroughs, and chaos along the way, and trust me, you won't want to miss it. Plot Armor Games, signing out.